I certainly had a plan going forward that I believe would have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done this before and had success, and I've turned around a franchise before, so I felt like I knew what I was doing and had a plan in place that would have certainly got us to where we needed to be. You know, and it was just going to, you know, it's going to take a while. It was going to take some time.
Right,
some
right.
time.
Why didn't this team win more games? I mean, because I think for us, you know, the fans and the media, it's simple that they just weren't talented enough. The offensive line was disheveled all year long. The defensive line was banged up. Your quarterback was hurt. Your wide receivers maybe didn't have the chemistry with the play caller and the quarterback that they need to have. I mean, clearly the personnel to win at the Super Bowl level wasn't here. Tim Ruskell did not give you the tools that you needed to take this team to a playoff berth and beyond. There's no question about that, in my opinion. What about in your opinion?
I think that we needed a lot of work. We had work to do.
Mm-hmm.
We had work to do.
With
Probably
the
involved
roster?
in all areas.
Right.
I mean, with the roster, with the coaching staff, with the philosophy, with the scheme. That's what you do after every NFL season. You just tear it down, whether you're successful or you're not successful, and you try to find a better way to do that. And that's the natural process. And so there's always areas you can improve in. And when you say that you can't, then you're fooling yourselves. And you know, we weren't going to do that. We were going to be very aggressive and attack this thing, just like I've done in the past. And you know, I've got, like I said, 25 or 26 years in the NFL, and I've been through a lot of different situations. In San Francisco, when I was the defensive coordinator, you know, we were a playoff team that sunk to 4-12, back to 6-10, back to 10-6, I think back to 12-4 in the playoffs for 2 years. You know, and then Mooch got fired. So why do things happen? I don't know, but I do know this: that I have a track record of being able to find success where there has been failure.
What if you go back to the beginning of the training camp, and you know, obviously there was excitement around.
Well, there always is. Every team,
is.
There's 32 teams in this league, and when they start training camp, all 32 believe that they're going to win the Super Bowl. And if you operate under any other assumption, then you're doing a disservice to yourself, to your fans, to your players. But there are some realities, and you know, we, as coaches, as fans, as media, sometimes we don't want to accept those realities because why dampen a season before it even starts?
Yeah, and I can vouch for that because I've been on teams that were, you know, I've been on a 2-14 team, and you know, optimism abounds. But as the season unfolded, what was maybe a couple areas where you said this is different than I might have been able to predict or envision on the eve of training camp?
Well, the inconsistency of the offense specifically in regards to the injuries, not necessarily in regards to performance. I'm not going to speak to player performance right now. I just refuse to do that. I'm not going to do that. You know, those guys laid it on the line every week. They might not have played to their potential every week, but they laid it on the line every week, and I'm going to honor that. I'm going to honor those players that did that. But I will say this, that losing Mike Wall and Walter Jones before they took a snap, that hurt. Losing Sean Locklear immediately into the second quarter of the San Francisco game hurt. Losing Matt Hasselbeck hurt. Losing Chris Spencer hurt. You know, the last four games, not having Marcus Trufant and Leroy Hill early in the year, that hurt. Losing Lofa early in the year, that hurt. Losing Nate Burleson down the stretch, our stretch the field playmaker who we didn't have from the third quarter of the Houston game on, that hurt. So all those things hurt. But you know, you have to find a way to overcome those things, and we were not able to find a way to overcome those things. It was a lot of stuff to overcome.
Right.
But, you know, you're always hopeful. You always believe. You always feel that, you know what, I can get it done. And the reason that I feel I can get it done is I have got it done before. So, you know, that's how I choose to live life, looking for the positive, not the negative, trying to turn adversity into something positive, and I'll continue to do that.
Well, the injuries and the lack of chemistry. I mean, Jim, you know, 2 weeks ago we had T.J. Hushmanzada and Deion Branch in the studio with Nate Burleson.
I never heard about that.
Yeah, you never did, right?
Yeah.
And T.J. was actually sitting in your chair right now that you're sitting in.
T.J. was the first player to call me, by the way.
After the show, or
Nope,
what?
After I got released.
Okay.
Within seconds, he called me.
What did he say?
He just was flabbergasted. You know, and I've had. I mean, you'd be amazed at how many of the players have reached out. I'd say I wouldn't say 100%, but most of them have. And you know, going forward, it's their job to support whoever the next head coach is. They have to do that. That's important. But these guys, I had them where I wanted them, you know, and they were buying in. And I know from their comments, because if they didn't, I wouldn't be getting these texts and emails. I just got one, as a matter of fact, just a few minutes ago. So, you know, yeah, TJ was the first guy, and he said, I had a horrible season. I'm gonna, you know, he said this right after the season. I'm gonna work my butt off, and I'm gonna get with Matt, and we're gonna make it happen. And so, and
he said the same thing on the show too when he was in. He actually
and he also, when I loved. I didn't get to listen to the show, but I really never knew that you threw 20 touchdowns and 35 interceptions.
Well, they came in here. The first thing
I got to tell you, I gave TJ a high five. I said, I've known this man for 30 years. Okay, for
he gave you new material, didn't he?
Years. And if I'd have known that, you don't know how much fun I could have had with that. But you know, it's me. I look at Hugh, and to me, Hugh Millen was the greatest quarterback that ever played for the New England Patriots until the current one. So.
Well,
that might be why you got fired.
Exactly.
That's your personnel evaluation.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess I set myself up for that one.
They came in here and were awfully critical of your offensive coordinator in Greg Knapp, both on and off the air. And I think that there's no question that there is a disconnect between them, or there was a disconnect between them and Greg Knapp. And I wonder, did you see that? I think you said
very easy for football players. I'll just say this, and I'm not talking specifically about TJ and Dion. I'm talking about 26 years of NFL experience and a lifetime, actually, if you include with my dad. It's very easy when things are going wrong. For us as human beings, it's very easy for us to point the finger in another direction. It's very hard for us to point the finger at ourselves. And I think that the man of integrity, first thing he does is he looks at himself. So that's all I'll say on that.
Okay. Huey?
Well, I respect that. I wholeheartely endorse that. I'm going back to you know, I think a lot of fans out there are saying, okay, what you know, where did it go wrong? And you know, I think one of the things was, you know, it just seemed like the continuity in the passing game. Just, you know, there was just in general, you know, you could.
Yeah, it's interesting about that. What you know about the passing game is that going into those last 3 games, we were. In the last 10 years, they'd only had 4 seasons where the passing game was more productive than it was going into those last 4 games. Then it kind of fell apart in those last 4
in terms
games.
of yards
and quarterback passer rating, interception touchdown ratio, those types of things. So, but those last 4 games were not very good.
Ever put your finger or thumb on that thing, or?
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, I have some ideas.
You want to share those ideas?
No. Not really.
Let me go back though. I do want to go back to the show that I did with TJ and Dion, because the reaction to that show was unbelievable, as Hugh will attest. I mean, it was all over the national news. It was all over national websites. You know, people here were talking about it, and the one common theme was, well, this shows that the inmates are running the asylum. If a guy comes on the show and rips apart his coordinator and is willing to do that and not worry about suffering the consequences, then clearly the inmates are running the asylum and the locker room is out of control. When you hear...
I never heard that.
Okay, well, I did, and I think Hugh did also. Yeah. When you hear that through me, what's your immediate reaction to that?
That it was obviously not true.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, these guys, players all over the nation have shows. We didn't have issues in our locker room. Never had. Our players are pretty classy guys, so... You know, things happen. When you're not losing, you know, it's easy to open yourself up to criticism. But, yeah, that's not the case.
Got it. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about what you're going to do starting tomorrow with the rest of your career, whether NFL, college, high school. Maybe you coach your kids now. You can do whatever you want. That's the beauty.
I mean, how do you know that there wasn't repercussions?
I don't know. Were there?
I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just going to tell you how do you know there weren't.
Okay. Well,
it's easy to assume.
No.
That's enough. No, I'm not. I don't.
No, you know what?
No, I'm done with that.
Really, you're right, because
I'm done with that one.
I'm making an assumption based on what I've heard, and what I've heard is that there haven't been. If you're telling me that I should think otherwise, then I stand corrected.
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Really? You want to move on? You sure?
Sure.
All right. Okay. Let's do this. We'll take a break. 12:37. Talk more about what your future looks like after the Seahawks with Jim Mora on 950 KJ.